Hello everyone, I'm back with a time lapse. This time I'll be narrating it. Sorry, I intended to narrate the last time lapse, but timing and, time didn't allow for it. Please excuse any noise of doggo or air conditioner in the background. It's too hot for me to be turning it off and all that jazz. Obviously you guessed I drew a Destiny 2 inspired piece, but the thing is that I started drawing this immediately after Bungie revealed Destiny 2. And I don't believe you understand how much I was screaming in excitement and in fucking anger. Piss off, Gary. You don't belong here. And I decided to channel all of that emotion into a painting, which I believe took at least 72 hours altogether. Obviously, this would be the night that Mr. Gary attacks and that claw ship just consumes the traveler. Well, not really consumes it, it traps it, because that's what he's doing. He's stealing all the shit from us, basically. I did try to work more on the clouds and the stormy sunset environment, and I think it came out well. Obviously, it did give me some trouble because of how many different layers I had to put into just the clouds and the sunset itself, not even the rain or anything else for that matter. At the time of working on the drawing itself, I did not have a lot of reference images to work from, and by the time that there were plenty of references to work from, most of the work had already been done, and I didn't want to redo any of it. I did try to emphasize the lighting a little, because I noticed in some of my previous pieces that the colors had always been kind of flat. So try to put more red on the Traveler to make it seem shiny, sorta, or to reflect the lighting a little bit. Did I forget to mention that I accidentally made this a 36 by 36 inch file in Photoshop? Because that was the thing. In the end, I did reduce it to an 18 by 18 inch file. You can see here I kind of messed up the claw, I'm going to call it, because that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a claw. We're a claw ship. All of this work, and I actually realized that it ended up being behind my hunter the entire time, so I didn't work on the rest of it. As for the hunter herself, I didn't bother with trying to look up all of the armor screenshots that the hunter had at the time, so I just stuck her in the armor set that I have now, currently in Destiny 1. And I also noticed I still have a little too much of an anime thing going on in my art style when it comes to drawing actual humans, and I wanted to work on that just a little bit. I still like my anime style, quote unquote anime style, but make it seem a lot more realistic in a way of terms, I guess. Also, I hate hands. I think every artist can relate. I fucking hate hands. They suck. Same thing with the lighting. I tried to make the armor at least have a little bit more shading to it, in a way that didn't make the color seem flat and dull and everything else. I also had to keep in mind that the front portion of her that you see was also still going to be having a shadow layer over top of it as well. Hiccups, excuse me. That it would just be a shadow layer over it as well. Also, why do hunters have little cloth pads on their arms? It confuses me greatly, and it hurt trying to do it, but I'm glad that that little section came out well. In the end, I think a lot of the focus really was on the face and her emotion shown in the face, especially the eyes, and I'm actually glad how that came out, because in the past I haven't really been the best with human faces in making them seem instead of using lines to define where the nose, the eyes, and everything else is, but instead using shading to do that. I did do that with a couple pieces before, but it was very difficult for me. I believe this is actually the first time I've used, well no, this is like the second time I've used realistic looking pupils as well. This is what I mean, trying to get away from the anime-ish style of art for my humans. Okay, so here's another thing. After I worked on this staff, because I only saw one screenshot of it, just one screenshot, and I was like, okay, I'll make the best of this. And not even a few days later, Bungie had updated their website header, and it showed the Arcstrader, and the staff looked completely different, and I was a little upset. And I was like, I did all this work for nothing, you assholes. But I kept it in there, just kind of like, oh hey, my guardian, she upgraded her staff. Because fuck you, she doesn't play by the rules. I would go so far as to say that this is the same character that I had drawn it's more than a couple years ago now. About 3 years ago now. In this other piece that I also have on YouTube, but I would not recommend going to watch it because it's cringe fest. Not because of the character, but because of the shit that I did. It was really bad. It was a pencil and inked drawing that I had scanned in, and it didn't look very good, and I might actually end up redoing that whole thing. Trying to give a little bit of depth here with her hair strands. And I didn't think about doing this when I was in the zone drawing, but I was like, she looks like she's so angry that she wanted to cry. So that's what I did. I gave her a tear. Or two. She doesn't admit it. Now this is probably the more difficult portion of the drawing because I don't really like doing environments when it comes to like buildings and whatnot. It's not that I don't like them, it's just it's very difficult for me, especially when I didn't know what was going to be covered up, what was, you know, not going to be covered up. Plus I didn't have my guardian sitting in the tower while I was doing this, so I didn't have a good point of view or anything. I had intended to make it look like things had already been pulled down, torn apart, in flames, but I just didn't have it in me to do that. I tried my hardest to make it look like tracer fire had been going off in the background and that the battle had been started, but it didn't work out. So the best that I can do is add like engine, I don't know what they call it, but engine trail and missile fire and whatnot from the ships in the background. That's the best I could do. And realized it had been raining in the actual story, so I'm like, oh cool, I need to draw rain now. I did cheat a little bit. It wasn't too bad, I guess. It's just that the rain didn't work out as much as I had wanted it to. So I did end up doing a background, like a mid layer, and then a foreground with some drops coming in from in front of her. And I attempted at rain splatter on her. I don't think it came out well because, well, I didn't know how rain works, I guess, is the best way I can determine it. So there's that shadow layer I was talking about earlier, and I had been wanting to add in the lightning effects, like she's getting angry, that Arc Strider 6 to come out, you better fucking back up. So I added a little bit of glow to her eyes, adjusted it a little bit, add in some smoke and whatnot. And I also decided to do a little bit of a focus blur by blurring everything else in the background and keeping her in the focus, which I don't know how that came out. You guys let me know. I know I sound like I wasn't really happy with how it came out, but I really am. Especially the rain and the lighting effects around her eyes on the little electric charges in the sunset. I'm happy with it. And that's the end of it. Hopefully I'll have more time lapses available for you guys, depending on how things go. I'll see you guys later. Bye.